Marvel United. There sure is a lot of it, huh? Probably 90% of board gamers already have their opinion set on it. I could say this review is for the remaining 10%, but it's probably for people who put board game videos on to listen to in the background. Let's be real. With that thought knocking my ego down a peg, let's talk about Marvel United Multiverse. The first thing I'm going to say is that this is a review of a small portion of the entire Kickstarter campaign, not just the core box. In fact, I think that Maestro might have been the only character, maybe Captain Carter, that actually played from the core box. I played the whole thing for a week, just grabbing whatever characters interested me in the moment. The second thing I need to mention is that I'm going to compare and contrast Multiverse with the Spider-Geddon core box pretty heavily, because I did a review of it in which I wondered if I should set my expectations for Multiverse based off of Spider-Geddon, and to some degree that was the case, and in others not. So I just want to clear that up. The third thing I'm going to say is that if you like to watch playthroughs like the one going on in the background, consider supporting me on Ko-fi. The main benefit of which is access to narrated playthrough videos, which I won't post otherwise because I make too many mistakes to loose them upon the general public, but you've all been warned. So, what might a person not like about Marvel United Multiverse Kickstarter campaign? I mean, too late. You either own it or you don't. So, but seriously, I'm going to compare a bit to Spider-Geddon. I don't think that the difficulty of the average villain is nearly as high as is in Spider-Geddon, which honestly felt punishing. But on the whole, the power creep of the game has really reduced the viability of Season 1 characters. Season 3 heroes and villains are both significantly more powerful. Villains tend to deal a lot of damage, and the persistent effect cards of the heroes have a really big impact on the game. I actually ended up putting most of the Season 1 heroes into a separate box. There are so many minis at this point, and I don't really plan to pull from it that much, with a couple of exceptions like Howard the Duck and the Punisher. The silver lining there is that if you want an insanely difficult experience, put Season 1 heroes against tough Season 3 villains. Conversely, if you want a much easier experience, smash Season 1 villains into a fine paste with Season 3 heroes, especially Darkchild, who is just absolutely broken and ridiculous. I will never lose twice to a villain again. From now on, a loss triggers the nuclear option of bringing Darkchild onto the team in the next game. They did try to address this whole power creep issue with classic equipment and generic equipment. So they provide classic equipment for like a shield for Captain America, like a helmet for Ant-Man, and then there's generic equipment that can be used by any character. To try to give those old characters constant access to some useful abilities, I didn't play with equipment that much, so maybe it makes enough of a difference. But the fact that they released popular characters like Captain America and Iron Man again makes me wonder. If you have played old characters with new equipment, let everybody know what you thought of the experience in the comments. Okay, I think that the other major downside to the game that might make people view it negatively is that, and this is for someone like me who often misses things, which is why you can only either see my playthroughs unnarrated, where it's hard to recognize my mistakes, or on Ko-fi. And that is that there is now a lot of stuff to remember. Not a huge amount, but far more than there used to be. Marvel United used to be the opposite of fiddly. There was just nothing to forget. You held all of your options in your hand. Now, with all of the starting hands with persistent abilities and all of the equipment besides the cards in your hand, you have many situation-specific abilities to consider and a lot of places to go looking for them. I started moving all of the persistent ability cards out of the timeline and into their own area because I would just like forget that they existed and never remember to use them. So now I check my hand, I check the equipment cards, I check the starting hand cards, I check the team cards because those give you options too. It's honestly kind of a lot. It at least takes some getting used to if you are accustomed to the very straightforward way of playing Marvel United Season 1. But those are the only negatives that I have. This is just someone who likes Marvel United a lot. So let's go to the positives. First, we're going to jump straight from that negative. Along with the increase in fiddliness comes with a big increase in variety of play. The heroes of the first season of Marvel United felt very samey. The main difference was the distribution of action icons on the cards. So you had some that did more punching and some that did more saving. Like basically everybody, it was universally agreed that the biggest source of variety in Marvel United and the longevity of the game was in the villains. I would contend now that the heroes bring an equal amount of variety to the table. For me, this is huge. This is ideal. I have discovered after years of playing these kind of boss battler sort of games that I definitely personally have the most fun trying out different player characters, especially in the ways that they synergize. The heroes in Marvel United Multiverse are much more satisfying to mix and match and explore than the characters in Season 1. The designers dug deep to create interesting play experiences. So when I said I put my Season 1 characters in a separate box, from a comic book reader's perspective, that's kind of sad. Those are characters that I love that I probably won't be playing much at all. But from a gameplay perspective, the reason is because these new characters are just way more fun to play. So I can't really see it as a loss. Despite Marvel United being described by some as a baby game for babies, I'd say that there's now some real depth present. That is the main positive by a country mile, but there are other things that I enjoyed. The sculpts have gotten really dynamic, and the application of clear plastic details is really lovely. The team decks have given me a reason to play teams that otherwise are only meta-motivated by my decades of comic book reading. I really enjoyed this, even though I didn't necessarily use the team cards that often. They can get you out of a bind. So when you start digging deep for a solution, it adds a little extra to dig into. And I do really enjoy that when you look down at your options and you're able to clever your way out of a problem. But mostly, I enjoy the team cards just as a reason to play the different characters. And I liked it more than I expected to. And I expected to like it. So, the takeaway. If you found Marvel United too samey and lucky, Marvel United Season 3 might change your mind. With the variety of heroes and the constant access to abilities instead of relying on good card draws. The game has changed so much from the very simple first season, you honestly might want to give it another try. And I almost never say that. I feel like I'm not just coming from the place of a fanboy, but I don't know. If you found Marvel United to be delightful as a low brain burn gateway game, it has shifted. You might want to stick with your current collection or at least keep it separated off. I have a copy of the original Marvel United separated off specifically to take on vacation or to play with kids. There's a lot more going on here. Otherwise, I'm delighted with what I'm assuming is the final installment of Marvel United. I see myself playing this game now for a very long time, having new experiences every time. And my understanding is that future entries into the United engine will be compatible, so I am really looking forward to getting DC Heroes United. Also, CMON dropped a little hint where it seemed like the next installment is going to be a different property. I'm hoping for Masters of the Universe or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, both of which IPs CMON has produced things for in the recent past. Mo2 has its own whole game that kicked off the power system, and TMNT had a expansion in Zombicide White Death, I think it was called. Are there properties that you're really hoping for? If so, let us know in the comments. I'm Jay Allen Riker, wishing you a great rest of your day and reminding you to keep playing solo.